Okay, so ask away.
So maybe can we start with your time with Dave? Can we talk a little bit about that?
Okay. I kind of need to do a lead in, how I got in that band prior to the whole thing,
Yeah.
and then we can go backwards if you want, chronological.
Sure.
I can play backwards too. Really. I mean, that was the solos too. So this is Love in Reverse.
Okay.
But which I'll do some playing here in a minute. I've got my Jones on again. I'm in an Ozzy Osbourne tribute band, and I play with this guy named Little Ozzy, and he's kind of famous. He's a little person, but he sounds just like Ozzy, and he sings phenomenal. And so I've been learning all these Randy Rhoads tunes, and it sounded like Eddie Van Halen trying to play Randy Rhoads. Because I'm not exactly that kind of guitar player. I'm more like an Edward kind of guitar player, and legato and weird phrasings and stuff like that. That's why his style came a little more naturally to me than some others, But the way I got into Dave's band initially, I never even auditioned. I was in a very popular LA band called the Atomic Punks, which was a tribute band, and this was in the mid to late '90s, and it became very big in LA, and people come down and sit in with us, like Billy Sheehan or whoever, and so it was well known. And so Dave had seen us a couple times, and we were playing in his backyard at Pasadena at the strip club, which is fine with me. That's where I'm, that's where I feel most comfortable at. So
it's a nice scenery.
Yeah, exactly. It can be distracting sometimes. Sometimes I blew a couple of solos, checking out the audience. But so and then his sister Allison and Kieran McClellan, who was his tour manager, came down to see me play one night and approached me about doing Dave's thing. Dave had some big gigs booked overseas, and the Bad Company tour was coming up. That we toured with the original Bad Company members, and so I'm like, okay, and I got my money right and everything, and got my house in order, and we discussed the set list. And Ray Luzier I'd played with before, from in LA from just gigging around. Actually, I did a big gig with Ray and Billy one time before that, and so we kind of all knew each other. And then I just went into rehearsals. Never even rehearsed. Didn't even meet him until 2 weeks I was into the gig.
Well,
I went down to the Rainbow on my birthday, and him and Kieran came down and bought me drinks all night, and we kind of got acquainted that way, which is Dave's style, it's totally cool. So I got schnockered, and he got a guitar player out of the deal. So
that's amazing.
So then, and so then he came in a couple. He'd seen us, he knew of us, And then he knew of Ray because Ray had played on the DLR Band album. And then we got Todd Jensen, who Todd played on the Little A Enough tour. So he knew everybody was competent enough to handle the material. And so he just kind of kicked it and let us, shake off the rust for a couple of weeks. And he came and started singing.
Yeah. So there's no real audition then?
No, I never, I mean, I guess, the tour manager came down, people came down before Dave a few times, check in and saying, are they okay?
Yeah.
Is the guitar player sober? No, but he sounds good.
That's good. That's what we want.
Yeah. So then after that, I just I spent I don't know 2-3 years in this band, and did a bunch of overseas stuff and all over the States, and had a blast, man.
Yeah, amazing.
I mean, Dave's one of my heroes. And I mean, Van Halen, the only reason that I probably attracted Ralph in the first place, we liked each other, or Dave, or whatever, because that was my band growing up, and that was the life changing. And I always tell this story because it's really important. It's like you probably remember. I mean, you're in Australia, but you might remember it when the Twin Towers came down, where you were at. Or when the Challenger blew up, the space shuttle in 1986. That made world news. And you remember where you were at that moment. Who you were with. I mean, the defining things in our life, unfortunately, those kind of events. But I was a 16-year-old kid, in high school, and when I went, and my gods back then were Jimmy Page, Clapton, and Ted Nugent was it, because Ted Nugent was a shit nizzle. I was a Ted head through and through. There was nobody better than Ted Nugent, double live Gonzo to the day I die. And so there was this kid at school, and he kept telling me about this new band. It's a guitar player named Ed. And I'm like, man, I don't want to hear that. Man, ain't nobody better than Ted Nugent. It can't be possible. So he kept bugging me because, I had a band. I played high school dance, and I was playing in bars at 16 even. And so, I had a little bit of a name. So he kept bugging me. And he ended up putting a cassette into my locker. I had Jim with him. I took it home. I'm like, what is this? And I hear, Running with the Devil. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I like that. It's all right. The Interruption came on. And then, then my life was never the same. Whatever happened with that, I didn't know what it was. First of all, I didn't know what he was doing. Yeah. I thought it was overdubs or something with the two-hand stuff, but the tone and everything about that, and I didn't know exactly what it was, and I didn't necessarily want to be just like him, but whatever it was, I wanted some of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because and then the song, you listen to the whole record, and the songs have pure attitude. They're spontaneous, they're live, they're full of energy. You can hear it, in that record. Not to mention the guitar tone is like, the holy grail of all guitar tones as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, Van Halen 1's, the one. The one. Van Halen 1.
That's right. Yeah. So now from there, after you heard Eruption, and then I guess you went back and got the whole album, I take it, and had listened to the whole thing.
Oh yeah. And then painstakingly I tried to figure some of that stuff out. But I was a 16-year-old kid. We didn't have all the tablature and all the stuff that we have today. YouTube and people showing you stuff. And of course I didn't have a teacher to show me any of it. So I just kind of back then it was a lot of times, even before that, before cassettes came out, was scratching the needle on the record. But you develop your ear like that, which is, I think a lot of musicians these days lack, because they go straight for the tablature and all this kind of stuff, and they're not really, spending time developing that ear. And that's your strongest asset as a musician, I think.
Yeah. Now, I've got two questions for you about first of all, the Van Halen album. So at that time, did you have a favourite song? I know it's like choosing your favourite child, but do you have a favourite song, or do you have one you'd like to play live from Van Halen 1?
Van Halen 1. That is a tough one. My favorite Van Halen song of all time is Unchained.
Yeah.
But on Van Halen 1, probably, this is going to sound kind of weird, but probably Little Dreamer.
Okay. Yeah.
The solo is highly emotional. I love those quarter step bends he's doing in there. That kind of stuff, and the lyrical content of that song too, it's like I was a kid in high school, and I kind of identified with it a little bit too, and it always, whenever I'm playing, tracking through the Van Halen stuff, because you hear Running with the Devil, it ain't talking about love, and You Really Got Me, I don't really care for that much, but it's the one I always play in jam bands with because everybody knows it, or kind of knows it, you hope. Sitting in is always a hopeful situation or jams or anything like that. Yeah. But it just really that one spoke to me, and then of course I'm the One probably too. That one is just
that was my favorite for sure.
Yeah. Oh really? Yeah. Yeah. That's.
I'm from that album. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And but they're all favorites on that record, really.
Yeah.
Top to bottom. Sometimes I'll put that on, play it start to finish, straight through, just to, go, man. And the thing is, I'm going to play some tonight. I ain't played some of these songs in a while.
Yeah.
We're talking about a decade, and or two. But I made a little practice thing up so that I can use, and we'll use that. But which is great now. I have all these tracks that don't have the original guitar track on them.
Yeah.
So, you can tell, because you play along with it, learning something when you're playing along with it, it's great to learn it, but you really don't know what you really sound like till you get live with a band, or these backing tracks, don't have, the guitar in them. So
Yeah, that's right.
some of them are the actual stuff, and some of them are the cheesy drum machine things that I've found. But there's a lot of it out there. People are doing.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Now, I guess the other thing is with Little Dreamer. Just going back to that one. I mean, personally, I think that's probably one of Dave's best vocal performances on the album as well.
It really is, and which is kind of odd because it's in the key of C minor, which is, well, I guess that really wouldn't be odd because C minor is the relative minor of E flat. So, of E flat major. So, anything that he's saying in E flat or A flat, those were his keys because Van Halen, tuned down a half step. So technically that would be in D. But right in that area, he was golden. But if you got some things a little too high for him, it loses its punch because he's really basically a baritone.
Okay.
Maybe a little higher than that. Not in the true sense of a baritone, but I mean, the cat can sing blues, man. Just like some of the stuff we did this video. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not, but it's called No Holds Barbecue.
No, I haven't seen that.
Okay. Well, I guess I better tell that story because that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Since we're trying to, I'd been in the band probably a couple of years at that point, and Dave wanted to do this photo shoot / video thing, and it started out as a photo shoot, then it got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger it ended up being a $1.5 million hour and a half long video that we had 7 Playmates of the Year in from Playboy magazine, and he trucked in sand on his tennis courts and built a giant ghetto blaster that we jumped out of on his back lot, and it was pretty nuts. But the point of that, we spent a bunch of time in A&M Studios recording all these songs for it, or we did some on set, and we would do things like these older blues tunes, and like "Fool for Your Stockings" by ZZ Top. I don't know if you know that song or not, but it's a slow minor blues. You can sing the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And he's just like, and I'm like, do that all the time, man, because anybody that goes out of their, I can't play 7-string guitar. I'm like, wait, there's got 2 million on it. It's like,
yeah.
Or I mean, I can't. Your element. I guess my element is, right around this area, the Van Halen stuff, and But I mean, I can play other things, because I'm a school musician. I went to GIT, and I have played in a variety of sessions and stuff like that over my life, and records and things. But yeah, I mean, he's just great in that area. So I don't know if this thing's still. You can probably find excerpts from it from online. I think I have one. We did an unplugged version of Mean Street because we had all these. He got all these vintage instruments. Like I had a Gibson double O, L-double-O, that Robert Johnson used to play. It was from the 30s, and he got all these vintage guitars, and the bass player was playing upright bass on some of the stuff, and it was kind of cool. It just but there was no common thread through the whole thing. It was just like it was like The Wall, but on acid, but on drugs, and then some more drugs and some alcohol. Because there was no, it was, kind of like his book was, which I love his book too. It's vignettes of, just scenes and stuff like that. So, it wasn't a unifying storyline, which might have helped it a little bit, but it was pretty wild.
Yeah,
but some of the music that we did was great. I mean, I got to do like Baker Street, and Edgar Winter played sax on it, and we did some ELO tunes, which I'm a huge Jeff Lynne fan. So I mean, the stuff was all over the map. Ottmort Liebert to Django Reinhardt to, you name it. But Jimmy Buffett. I mean, Dave's got the biggest musical appetite of anybody I've ever met in my life. Because basically all he does when he's not, touring or whatever, even then to a degree, is smoke pot all day and listen to CDs.
Yeah.
I mean, back in touring days, he had a big pillowcase just full of CDs, just before the iPod and all that. he dragged that around, and he's a huge disco fan.
Yeah.
He played Saturday Night Fever almost every night before we went on, which after a while drove me crazy. But it got him in the mood because, and you think about it, I mean, that was his influence on Van Halen, because without him adding that pressure of, you know, making them do things that, you know, they normally might not do, like, you know, Mean Street, you know, 16th note disco rhythm in that, or, you know, the sambas and whatnot, and in, you know, Dancing Not Away and Jamie's Crying, or you know, some stuff that's, you know, I mean, that's what those, you know, it's Brazilian influence.
Yeah.
And so he had that in him, and I don't, you know, and without him doing that, you know, and I think, you know, Ed and Hours would be, you know, in a experimental jazz fusion band still to this day, playing, you know, little clubs around L.A. Yeah. So, I mean, he really was, you know, sometimes bands like that, you know, there's a lot of discord in them, but if it wasn't for that, you know, people pushing and pulling, they would never make the product they make.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Aerosmith's another band like that.
Yeah.
You know, the pull and tug between Joe and Steve, and you know, but they all break up. I mean, that's the problem with it. After a while, I'm bigger than you are. I'm bigger than you are. Oh yeah, I'll show you. I'm leaving. Okay, fuck you. And it's like, you know, and then you have to wait 20 years for the reunion. At least Aerosmith got it back together a little bit sooner, you know. But you know, people really, anyone that has a memory. Did you see the old Van Halen with Dave?
Yeah. Oh, not live, but only like.
Oh no, I mean back in the early days.
You know, live? Did I see him?
Yeah, live back in the early days.
No, they never came here with Dave back in the early days. Their first tour was Gary Sharon.
You know, you can't just. I mean, the only band that's ever done it that I've seen it work is AC/DC. You know, plugging. You know, it's not the thing that kind of. I mean, and Brian made it more successful.
Yeah.
You know, and it never. I mean, well, probably some of it is fan reaction or them being, you know, stubborn and obstinate about going if somebody's alive. You know, I mean, and that may have something to do with it. You know, and Ozzy's been through a million guitar players. I mean, Zach had some big shoes to step in, and you know, so did Jake, who I admire both those guys immensely. And I kind of did too, because I was, you know, playing Ed's stuff and Steve Vai's stuff. But so there's some people who will never accept you, no matter what you do in that situation, because you're not the original guy. So I guess my point is that next time, guys, whoever out there is going to be the next big band, and you get successful, and you fall all the way up about the music, don't leave and then say it's creative differences. That's never really the truth, you know. It's really something to do. You know, there's two things. You know what breaks up bands? You know what breaks up bands? Bands. And the second part is the managers. The managers get in there. You know, if you know, when Van Halen had no managers and nothing but dreams, and they were locked up in a sweaty basement over at Dave's house, you know, writing, you know, all those songs, because they had all those tunes almost finished before. I mean, in some stages of, you know, being finished, you know, Ted came in and, you know, chopped them up and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, they had them all, you know, a lot of them, like, you know, the whole first record was written except for, I think, Jamie's Crying, they wrote in the studio. And it's a lot of stuff. I mean, and A Different Kind of Truth is all old songs that didn't make the cut.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if you knew that or not, but anyway, so what I was going back to is, you never saw Van Halen. I saw them on every tour except 1985.
Okay.
1984, in 85.
Yeah.
And I saw Diver Down twice, Fair Warning twice. And, I mean, for anybody that saw that, you know, that's why they wanted Dave and Ed back together again, because it was just, the magic, it was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And, I mean, and, you know, it was, they took liberties in the tunes, you know, they all did. But, you know, that's what I liked about it. I mean, most bands I go see, and when I was playing this stuff, or, you know, where I had to play it note for note, or people go, he can't play that stuff. I mean, that's what Dave wanted too, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, in that kind of thing, you know, you don't paint a mustache on the Mona Lisa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in other things, you have, you know, the original band doing it, and they're improvising on, you know, the songs that you've heard. They're like, and you're going, man, that's how you cut it in the studio. He just played, you know, and it was great because you got a whole another section of interpretations of Van Halen songs live every time we would see him.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I mean, mostly that was Ed and Dave not singing the words, but I mean, but you've seen all the old videos, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah, all those, yeah.
And then and then for everybody that didn't see him back in the day, it was a big draw, you know. And that tour was very successful, you know. Although the second one not as much, but you know, I mean, I go back and watch that stuff in 78, 79 sometimes. I mean, on Fair Warning, there's only 3 songs that I can find that are on video. You know which ones I'm talking about?
Fair Warning.
Fair Warning. There's Oakland Coliseum.
Oh, for you live.
Oh yeah, Van Halen live.
Yeah.
The Oakland. So the Oakland Coliseum one has. So This Is Love, Unchained, and Hear About It Later on it. Mm-hmm. And in that tour, there's a show that I was at in Greensboro, North Carolina, where I'm from originally. Yeah. And look it up. It's Fair Warning, Greensboro Coliseum. Okay. And Ed was at his he was might have been at a different peak right before he got signed, but creatively, because Fair Warning was a very different record.
Yeah.
I mean, the stuff he was doing on there was kind of, you know, a far cry than, you know, from Van Halen 1. And I didn't like it at first when it came out. And now it's my favorite album. Yeah. And well, behind Van Halen 1, I can't really say that. But my second favorite album. But, you know, that show in Greensboro, and I saw him twice on the tour, but that particular one, you know, he had put a stand on the back of his guitar and had it where it went up like this, and he was playing it like a piano and do all those hammer-ons and stuff. Like, have you ever seen him do that?
No, I haven't.
You know, it's unbelievable. You as a Van Halen fan have to check that out.
Yeah, I will.
You know, and I was just, I mean, as a kid, I was only like 17, 18. I met him on that tour too. I chased him down. And he gave me an autograph, and I talked to him for a while. It's the first time I met him. Mm. And, you know, he ended up just blowing my mind. I mean, I was just like, I don't know if there's anybody that's ever going to attain that kind of thing again. I don't know how I could. Mm. You know, I mean, it was so far. I mean, back in 1981, we saw something like it was so far advanced over everybody's head. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely was.
You know, and it still is. I mean,
yeah.
You know, Eddie's playing is, you know, it's difficult to decipher, man, because, you know, his phrasing's, you know, really wacky. But it's a funny thing about Dave. I tell this story a lot. If you know, I was on a bus with that guy for a couple of years, yeah. And you know, he sometimes there's no connection. There are no, and if you make them, they're very tenuous ones at best, but tenuous ones. Yeah. But a lot of times and I do this a lot. Like, you'll hear me talk right now, and he go, "What the hell? Where's he going with this?" And I'll circle it back around and close it off with something.
Yeah.
And you know, and Dave would do that, and there was kind of Zen lessons in some of it if you really paid attention. Mm. And he's, you know, but sometimes it's just like, you know, they're sporadic kind of one-liners and things of that nature, which I also do. Yeah. But I started to understand him when I drank Jack Daniels with him. You know. We had a half gallon one night. I have a picture of it somewhere. I can send it to you, and you can post it up here when I'm talking about it if you want to. Yeah, and we were drinking. Yeah, Dave, I understand what you're saying now, man. It's like, you know, so that's just what I got to do, you know. And, so, you know, it was a great experience. But what were we talking about again? No, I'm kidding. But you know, some of the stories and stuff. This is one I always tell you. right before we went on tour, um, he came into the rehearsal. Somebody had a watch, wore a watch. I don't know who it was. It wasn't me because I don't like stuff on my hands. I don't wear any jewelry or anything like that. But
Yeah.
he ended up, talking to us. He would always give us like an hour talk before we hit a note, which sometimes was good and sometimes not so good. And a lot of it had to do with how to act, what to wear, how to, all this kind of stuff. And so, and he just talked, and no one else did. And so he's like, guys, don't wear watches. Rock stars don't care what time it is. And I'm like, okay, I don't wear one anyway. What, Dave? I mean, so 6 months later, I'm sitting on a tour bus. Dave comes on with this brand new gleaming Rolex. It blinded me with it. And so I'm like, I knew him well enough at this point. I was like, hey, Roth, what's up with a watch? No, rock stars didn't wear watches. He goes, that's right, Walsh. I'm an effing icon. And I'm like, well, okay, I just got served.
Yeah.
And I was like,
That's funny.
yeah, which is true. I go, well, yeah, you are, because there's guys, the guys, like him and Axl and Freddie Mercury. They're most rock stars are here, and there's the other guys that are, in the stratosphere.
Now, you had a story about the stripes too, didn't you? About your shoes?
Oh, yeah, I told you the other
Yeah.
day. Well, at the moment in time when I was touring Dave, there was no love lost between him and Ed. And because I was playing 5150 heads, and he had the text tape the 5150 over or take the logos off of them.
Wow.
And so I was, we were playing Sweden Rock Fest, and it was my second gig, and it was high pressure because it was like 35,000 people in the audience, and his bodyguard at the time, and his bodyguard for the last 20 years, a guy named Ed Anderson, called me up to his room and said, hey, Bart, come on up here and we need to talk to you. And bring your stage shoes. I'm like, bring my stage shoes? What the hell? I'm like, okay. And so he goes, and bring a Sharpie too if you got one. A Sharpie? I happen to have one because I was signing autographs the night before, so I took it up. And he goes, let me see your shoes. We're going to have to color. I've got to tell you what kind of shoes they were. They were ASIC wrestling shoes. Yep. Which I used to wear all the time because they were light and the soles were split and stuff like that, and so you could really, get your footing on stage. And so, but they had these, the ASIC stripe. I don't know if you know those shoes or not, but they had stripes on. Yeah, and so, because let me see that shoe. Now we're going to have to color these stripes in because Dave's got a thing about stripes. You don't want these. I'm like, he said something about that. Let's just color them in. Okay, no strike policy in the old Roth camp. I was like,
wow.
Yeah, it's all true. And it's like, because even though he wanted back in Van Halen, he didn't want to, promote, the brand or anything like that. I suppose I can kind of see that. I can see that. But I didn't know that anybody. I didn't ever think. I didn't get ASICS wrestling shoes because they had stripes on them and I was a Van Halen tribute band. It never occurred to me, I didn't think of it, So anyway.
Yeah, that's good.